Hi, Daniel. Welcome, and thank you for being here.
Cool to be here.
Or actually, thank you for having me here, because we're currently filming this in the Airchip office.
Correct.
So, for today, I want to focus with you mainly on the overall startup process. What did it look like for you guys? What challenges did you face? And also, how did you deal with them? But before we dive into the deep details, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about yourself, your background, and also what Airchip means to you.
Yeah, cool. Well, the origin of this wonderful startup idea lies in the fact that I've been organizing events myself for quite some time. Just over 10 years ago, I started my first company, which was basically a group of friends who like to make music and have a party with friends. And these two things combined really didn't let us to any stage yet when we were just shy of 20 years old. So we started to do parties ourselves to provide a stage for these music plans that we had. And all along the way, the hobby became a business. And it was, I think, around 2017 when I started to see screens flowing into the crowds of festivals. And obviously, this was a result of social media taking a big hike and smartphone development that survived through festival experiences. And I thought, hey, what the hell? People are so much interacting with the screen, but all connected to platforms that don't have anything to do with the festival experience itself.
Yeah.
I was responsible for creating new opportunities at locations with event plans in the organization. And this means that you have to work with government a lot, and this can be very much of a headache. So midwinter, you have the most stress when you have to get the new paperwork in for the next event that you want to create. And to take my mind off stuff, I started thinking about a technological approach to an improvement of the festival experience.
Yeah.
Based on this mobile trend that I saw. So that was basically the starting point. Usually when you have a great idea as a startup, you imagine the problem to be there, and sometimes you can envision a problem that's not so much structured in real life as it is in your head. But I encountered this problem oftentimes while I was getting to be a more experienced event producer. This is the fact that any party is great unless people have to wait without a reason. And this can be for toilets, for the entrance, but obviously also in front of the bar. And this was a problem that I couldn't fix while we were producer, creator, and everything that is tied to the event. We could literally twist any knob, budget-wise, production-wise. But still, when the weather is nice and people are like crazy to go party and they're very thirsty, crazy lines can happen in your own festival. And what I saw is that when you were doing questionnaires afterwards, the only real impact on an event experience was the fact that people got stuck in logistic problems. So the problem was very obvious from the get-go, and the solution to it was very vague still.
Yeah.
And this is basically in where we were in 2019, early 2019, when we were trying to get the first funding in.
Cool. And could you describe Airchip in a few sentences? What was the solution that you brought?
In one sentence, it's the ultimate visitor experience. And this means that we feel, our vision is that if you work hard in life and do it through the week, you have the most amazing stuff you have to do. For whatever reason, you want to get up out of the bed. But on Saturday, if you finally get to this great event or this performance with your friends, you just don't want to carve out hours of this experience with things that you don't like, which is waiting for stuff, basically. So create the best experience for visitors is our primary mission target. And we do this by basically automating a lot of behavior using tech that was up until now very not technical. So to make it very concrete, we automate your verbal ordering to someone working behind the bar, and we automate the payments completely. Freeing up time to be more efficient from the professional side, but especially from the visitor side. You don't ever have the sense of waiting in line because the waiting happens in the cloud.
Yeah. Cool. And was this a one-man job, or what did the founding team look like? at the beginning?
At the beginning, yeah, we had some change arounds from the founding team until the solid team that we are today.
Yeah.
I think this has also to do with the fact that we were interrupted by a massive global pandemic, and that people had other ideas about what they want to do in life. But yeah, I once initiated the gang, and I'm still initiating it. But there were some swap rounds, and I think everyone walked away happy, and the ones who stayed are still happy here. So yeah, but it is an important thing to think about, to test the cultural due diligence with other people you work with, because it is like a marriage.
Yeah, it is. And what brought you together with the other co-founders or founders?
I think the most important co-founder right now has worked with me in my previous company as well.
Okay.
A technical guy. His name is Jan, and he doesn't only understand the tech very well. He's worked at consulting agencies as well from a tech perspective. But he was also there when we started building these parties out with my previous company. He was there as a production manager for the hospitality part, so for the bar and the catering. And he was there at a later stage also with the design process of events as well as brand activations, which is an important part of festivals. And then he went away for a bit to augment his career elsewhere, which is totally understandable. But at some point, consulting becomes boring. So I said, hey, let's do this startup. And back he was. And very good partner to work with.
And did you guys come with the idea together, or was it your idea from the beginning and he joined later?
Well, the technical execution was quite different from my pre-work and my research than how we did it, compared to how we did it. There were some requirements for the product. Like for one, it had to perform well in very high volume ad hoc situations, right? When the festival's happening, you can't fail because, well, everyone's unhappy then. So there was a very hard requirement about redundancy from connectivity. What happens if 4G is starting to struggle. And it was only later that we understood while we were prototyping that it's not so much a payment solution, it's an actual full service fulfillment solution, right? It's not about paying for the drinks, it's about getting the information about what you want at a certain time and transform it in the fact that you have the drink in your hand a short time later. So it moved from payment solution to actual full service fulfillment engine, basically for events. And this happened from, like, we got the first funding in July, we got the team in August, September, and already mid-September we had our first prototype in the hands of actual visitors. In a small bar, it was nothing much. It was really stick together with tape and tie wraps technically. But it tested the assumption, do people like to be served in a different way while they're going out? And this turned out great. And from that test, we tested every month and everything broke. But what didn't break was the fact that people actually enjoyed it.
And regarding the initiation of Airchip, were there any things you forgot retrospectively?
Well, what we did, because we were so focused on offline redundancy, the funny thing is that our prototype only started even connecting to endpoints during order behavior, I think in February, which was like half a year after we started developing, right? Which is quite weird because normally app products are connected to the internet from the get-go, right? So from one side, I'm really happy that we had this focus on redundancy. On the other hand, while we were going into production, you see that only like 1 or 2% in normal situations is going through this redundant ordering system. So thinking about data structures and a logical approach of what we needed, we could have had greater ideas at the beginning, but hey, everyone can say that from hindsight, right? I think one important lesson is also here to watch out for the right cultural match with the people you work with, and make sure that everyone is in the same visionary direction. But overall, we played around. It was my first go at a tech company, so you make many stupid mistakes and you have to iterate very dynamically over time. But it was fun. it started becoming a bit less fun when the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
We're literally ready to launch with all sorts of cool launch parties in March 2020, but unfortunately then it became a bit annoying having to play around with other setups than the product was intended for. But we got out of it, and we now have actually had great experiences on the dance floors with people going crazy. So
cool.
That's what we intended to do eventually.
Yeah, that's nice to hear. And as you mentioned earlier, many startup teams have trouble gathering a good team, especially in the beginning.
Yeah.
What did your team look like at the start? With which knowledge or responsibilities?
I was looking for funding any way I could see it, and it was during the crypto craze. So I even had contact with weird ass Chinese-based crypto projects in order to get this funding in.
Yeah.
But just before I thought, well, let's give up, there was a very cool local innovation fund, partly run by the government, which funded us.
Yeah.
But it came like 2 months after we put some money in ourselves to create a prototype, which eventually also led to the funding. So it was really important. No, we started with an iOS guy who was really great and extremely fast prototyping.
In-house or a freelancer?
Well, he just quit another job, so he was available.
Yeah.
So at first a bit freelance, and then he became part of the team.
Yeah.
No, but my goal was to have an in-house team as soon as you can, also because of the fiscal opportunities that you have there. But no, this guy started prototyping, and what was great about him, he could build anything in a couple of minutes almost. What was less great is the fact that there was no real background in data structure and stuff. So it was a balance you have to find. But I personally tried to get those people in the team, and everyone knows getting developers is very hard. It was the same back then. Yeah. So you might be scared of the figures that you have to pay for a recruitment agency, and some of them are really techy and sticky and nasty. But we now learned that when you have the right recruitment agency, it can really, really accelerate the right cultural fit for talent as well. And we have a really great experience with people who actually understand the job of recruitment very fine. So to any new founder, please consider having support in recruitment, because just finding a right developer cultural fit is very hard to do yourself when you have no experience in the field.
Yeah. And were there also other team members besides the iOS developer? Yeah,
just after we found a guy who was senior backend developer, who was really into getting into a new field of the Go development. He did many old stacks before that, and he said, "Well, if I hop from the safety from a big corporate towards a startup, I want to go about and have a new fresh product to work on." So the second hire was a Go backend developer, and the third hire an Android native developer, and that basically concluded the team to finish the product.
All right. Okay. Cool. Thank you for that insight. And what would you identify as the greatest hurdles during the growth of your startup?
The greatest is obviously the pandemic, but it makes sense. I think the other one, it is very, very important to test your own biases at all times, especially if you're the initiator of a project, you have this whole idea in your head mapped out. But the more often you get yourself to be wrong by doing basic UX research, having people to do tests on basic mockups, we've learned once we start doing it, and it doesn't have to be even that expensive, that you can actually make data-driven decisions. So you don't need a data set of hundreds of people using it. Like 5 people using it could result in like 80% of the problems that are lying in your design. So doing that as quick as you can in a structural way. Like I said, 2 weeks after our second hire, we were prototyping with real live people. Yeah. But what we were experienced enough in was the fact, how can you take the information out of these people and conclude it in an effective way to improve your product afterwards. And we've kind of did a long job of learning that. But on the other hand, we were very happy to have a launching customer like Paradiso in the great pop venue in Amsterdam. Yeah. They were confronted with the most stringent rules about receiving people in their venue. And in some weird way, our vision of removing waiting lines was just what they needed to have people attend to their shows. And the good thing is that we had this amazing testing ground now, not just with our focus group of young party people, but with like a range from 18 till 68 basically. And yeah, we could help them in a way, but also all these visitors helped us in a way to restructure the product that it now is, because we shipped an important update on the 1st of December last year, and everything from then was very iteratively improving under the hood.
Yeah.
But this was really important. So find those end users and actually see them use it, right? If you do an app for, I don't know, ordering shoes, you're not in people's living room seeing how they do it. Well, we have the opportunity to see it physically happen. And yeah, I think that's a great learning to have.
So the greatest hurdle was validation and attracting users.
Our whole target audience fell through right from March. So we said, well, what the hell are we going to do? For 1 week, we worked on like a Corona app. Like there was a tender from the government, and it was based on Bluetooth. And Bluetooth was our core improvement of our core development technology at this time. So we had 1 week of other fun, and then we came back and said, okay, what the hell are we going to do? And then all along the way, the 1st of July, then things reopened a little bit, and we had our target audience, and it was really important to validate.
And how did you cope with challenges during the development of your product or service? You already told us a little bit about it, but
I think the quite common. Like for instance, one of your colleagues, he explains it really easily. In the beginning, go slow to go very quickly in the end. Well, obviously, in the beginning, we did quite the opposite. There was an amazing feature list that, well, obviously wasn't feasible to finish in a certain amount of time. So being very strict towards yourself, like what feature actually does make me money in the short run, focus on that and skip the rest.
And also adds value to the customer, of course.
Yeah, well, I think that's the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, first validate that people love to use it, and then the clients want to pay for it. Often I think it could be done with like 30% of the features that you envision as a founder. So be very strict to yourself and have your product owner tell you again and again what is necessary and what's not. I learned that personally, to listen to those arguments more and more. So that's a personal learning. Don't go too wide.
And anything that, looking back, you would have changed or done differently in the first place? You would have kept the product scope less bigger or less big, or what are other things you would have done differently?
Get outside people to test your findings on UX research, basically. I would suggest people. I would also suggest don't have the hurry of saying I need to get out there first or else someone else will do it. Don't have it overpass the need for proper team building, basically. Don't rush that. That's a mistake I think I made. Biggest mistakes. Validate the commercial opportunity of each feature before you build it in any way you can, and be strict to yourself.
Okay, and let's talk about some positive things.
Yeah.
What went exceptionally well, and what do you think the reason for this was?
Well, we had to wait a long time for it since the start of the product development, but we have been thinking about all the metrics that we could take out of our product, right? If you would now go to an event organizer, you would ask like, what are waiting times for people to get into the to get a drink, or what's the efficiency of each bartender, right? You have no idea. You have like metadata of the whole event, but no specific behavior in the efficiency of the hospitality. But we can see everything. But the question is, how are we going to validate anything if people have to sit in chairs while they're experiencing a performance, right? So we were waiting, and then on the 2nd of July, the ban on dancing was lifted, right, in the Netherlands. So this was a great moment for us, but also something we were a bit nervous about. Like, how are we going to test these expected metrics to turn out in real life.
Yeah.
And how are actual music lovers going to experience the first Airchip order, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was in Eindhoven, really cool underground location, around 800 people, right? At this moment, there were no restrictions, but we thought, well, we start small, around 1,000 people, and everything was set up. People started flowing in. Everyone was crazy, ready to party, right? And then it became busier and busier, and we were looking at the metrics and at the people operating our point of sale solution behind the bar. Obviously, we didn't see any high pressure workers using our software as well.
Yeah.
But what was really great is that the efficiency figures and the waiting times, even in like the most peak moments of an event, where normally this would be like 4, 5, 6, 7 people deep, the lines, given from my experience, there were no waiting lines. There was more revenue processed per worked hour than we would ever imagine, and where we expected around one phone. We use phones as a point of sale device. One phone per 200 people. We felt that we could easily run peak pressure at around 500 visitors per phone, which is a great underscoring of what we've been modeling before. So we're really happy that these people, they were drinking a lot in Eindhoven. Apparently people do that over there. So it was a high pressure test from the get-go. We were really, really happy that it worked. And we were ready to scale up towards 10,000 people this summer. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. But we picked up the pace again in autumn, and now we're gradually building up the audiences again. So
yeah, must have felt great then that your product was finally working and being used by so many users.
And they were happy about it.
Yeah.
They were really happy about the fact that they just could finish the conversations while they were waiting for their drinks. So the product market fit was finally felt on the dance floor instead of in a batch of chairs. That's just a completely different setting. Pitfalls as a startup founder in general?
Yeah, so for software-based startups who are in a similar position as you were a couple of months or years ago.
I think what we, it's really hard to actually bring this advice into effect, I think, but I think start creating a very elaborate data model, not just for the product that you're envisioning for the next 2 months, but something that you're envisioning for the next year. And create a data model that is acceptable for change over time, right? If you build feature on top of feature, and well, it's generally called technical debt, I believe. I'm not a product owner, but I think this is the term for it. Both from the start, create an elaborate data model as well as taking the time to like correct mistakes along the way. We should have done that a different way, because still to this date, there's like 1 out of 100 users experiences something that we cannot really explain, and this has to do with this data structure. Yeah. So now that we're hopefully finishing some funding soon, we're going to restructure the whole logic of the backend before growth again. So data model 1. Again, pitfall number 2, as a founder, you're so full of biases. Please break them. Have yourself hurt as much as you can by statistics and knowledge and other opinions. Get yourself blasted with negative comments in order to be happier later. Because if you then actually develop on it and the product becomes better, you'll be happier in the long run, except for doing your own mindset.
Yeah.
And the third one, make sure that there's some experienced person helping you with creating a team.
Like a mentor.
Could be a mentor, could be an investor, could be like most of our investments from till now on came from government or subsidy origins. So we didn't have the old guy who was waving his finger saying you should do this or that. So hopefully with the next round we'll have more of that. But someone who've been building a tech team before, helping you build it and creating the right culture from the get-go. I think that's something I miss and I would wish on other founders. to find or look for.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your experiences and also
Sure.
your insights. And this really is great for the startups that are the new or aspiring startups to be. And for now, wish you good luck with building out Airchip. And we're
Thanks.
looking forward to the next steps.
Cool. Thank you.